Hi everyone, and welcome to the second tutorial for building a website in R. In the first tutorial, we went through and learned about all the different platforms that work together to create the website, such as RStudio, GitHub, and Netlify. And today, we will actually build the website. So at this point, I'll just assume that you already have RStudio and GitHub installed. We'll go through, and don't worry if you don't have a Netlify account, we'll go through that together. Now, I just want to show you, I'll be following this blog that I wrote when I created a website for the first time, just to remind myself of all the steps and just to make it easier. I will be able to post this in the video when we upload it, so in case you want to follow along, you'll have that available. But for now, let's go ahead and get started. And I'm going to start right over here. So just again, as a reminder, please make sure to have RStudio and Git installed. So the first thing we're going to do is log into GitHub. And so I have my GitHub opened. I'm already logged in. And here we are going to create a new repository. So I went to my repositories and creating a new repository, and I'm going to call this, let's see, academic website, if this is available. Okay, and here we're going to keep it on public, that's fine. We just want to make sure to click a README file because these are always super useful to have whenever you're creating a new repository. Okay, great. So now we have our repository, and what we have to do is click on this green code button and you can copy this URL right here. So you can see I just clicked it, it said copied. So that's what we need from GitHub at the moment. So now we want to go back to, or actually open up RStudio, and we want to create a new project that links to the repository that we just made. So you can go File, New Project, and it's version control because we're working with Git. So you can see clone a project from a Git repository. And now because you've copied that straight from GitHub, you can simply just paste it. So I just did Control V and you have your project directory name. Make sure you're putting it somewhere that you're going to remember. So for me, it's just on my desktop now. And I will go ahead and create the project. And you see it's switching projects, so it'll just take a second. Okay, great. So here we have our project, and the only thing that we have that we can see that we already created is this README file. So that looks good. So now, still in RStudio, we're just going to go ahead and get started to begin building our websites. So the first thing you'll have to do is install the package that we'll be using, which is called Blogdown. Now, I'm not going to run this line of code because I already have Blogdown installed, but go ahead and make sure to run that. And then once you have done that, you can load in Blogdown. And it's okay to do all of this in the console because everything we're doing right now is really going to be the initial setup. Okay, so we can see we have our Blogdown loaded, and we have to install Hugo, which you would have learned about in the last tutorial. So this is where we're going to get our theme from. And it already says that it's already been installed, so that's all right, but you definitely want to make sure to install that. So at this point, you would want to go ahead and select the theme that you want to use in Hugo, but for the purposes of this tutorial, we're just going to stick with that academic theme. So you can type in new site and set the theme. And this is taken straight. This information can be found if you go to the Hugo website. Once you find the right theme that you want, this is actually just the name of the repository. So we have starter academic. So now you can see it's creating our site, and this might take a minute while everything's loading. Okay, we can just close that. That's okay. Great. So now at the bottom, it asks, want to serve and preview the site? Yes, why not? Okay, and it popped up over here. Let's just take a quick look. So here we go. Just with that one line of code, we actually already have a site. And you can note at the top it says localhost because right now we're only working in R. So that's where we're hosting the website from at the moment. But here you go. This is the default. And actually, if we can go to the viewer, and we can also, there's also, just to point out quickly, there's another function, stop server. So you can see that had stopped the server, but you can always just start serve site, and we'll have it pop up here in our viewer. Or pop up here. So this is actually what the demo for the default academic theme looks like, and you can scroll down and take a look. So that was pretty simple. We already have the website in just a couple lines of code. However, there are a few settings that we need to adjust just to make sure everything is working and edit just a couple of files. So the first thing we have to do is back in our files, in this git ignore file, we're going to add a couple of lines here. And again, this is all, I'm just copying it straight from my notes, the blog that I added, that I made. And you can see we're just adding these 2 lines. So .ds_store and thumbs.db. And now once we have that, we're going to do a check. And these are all functions that should already be there because we've already loaded in Blogdown, so you can see that they're all here. So the first check we're going to do is git ignore because we have just edited that file. And now you can see it's going through and checking, and there are a couple of markers that say to do. So this is where you want to take a look and see what it says. So you can safely add these files. So we actually just did that, so that's good. And you can safely add these files as well. So we're just going to, again, right here, we're going to add the public and resources. Now, I know it has an extra backslash here. I've tried this a few times, and for me, it works when I do it this way. So we're going to try it out this way, and hopefully it works. And again, I didn't say this before, but make sure you save the file. And now we're going to do another check. And this time we're going to check content. Okay, great. So hopefully at this point, you get the great message as well. And that means everything looks good and we're ready to move forward. So again, just to emphasize, right now, everything is just in RStudio. We're working in our academic website project. But remember, we have to communicate with GitHub. So we have to actually push all of these files to our repository on GitHub, because at the moment, if we go back, the only files in our GitHub are the README files. So right, we only see this file here. So right now we're going to do a couple of steps so we can push all of these changes. Now, the first time we push all of the changes, just because we've added so many different files, it's going to be a little bit different and just a bit more complicated. But I recommend doing it this way because I tried doing it the other way on the first time, and there are just so many files that I actually crashed my RStudio. So you can do this through the shell. Now, if you've never used the shell before, don't worry, I'll walk you through everything. But just remember, we're going to do this one time, and then every other time we're trying to push things to GitHub, it will be a much easier process. So bear with me this first time. So all I did was go to, I'll show you one more time, Tools, and shell. So if this is your first time using GitHub, you're going to have to set up a couple of configurations. So I'm just going to show you the 2 lines of code. I'm not actually going to run this because I've already done this, but let's see if I can get this to copy. Okay, I'll just type it out. So you want to do git config global username, and then in quotes here, enter your username. Okay, and this needs to be your information from GitHub. So this will be your GitHub username. Once you've done that, hit enter. I've already done this, so I'm going to just backspace. And the second line that you need to set up the config is your email. So similar global user dot email. And again, just in the quotes, put your email and hit enter. Once again, that should be your email that's associated with your GitHub account. So that's only if you've never used GitHub before. So everyone now should add this line of code, which is just git add dash capital A. So this line of code is just saying that you want to add all of the changes that you've just done. So it's pretty much staging everything. And I'll explain what that means in just 1 second. So right now, a lot of things are happening. This might look like craziness for you too, but that's okay if it doesn't. Once it's done that, we're going to close out and double check to see that it worked. So now at the top, in your top panel, you can go to Git. And this is where you can see all of the files that we were just working on. And remember, whenever we're dealing with Git, we have to stage, commit, and push. So what we did in the shell, that was just staging everything. So that's saying, these are the things that I want to end up pushing. So now I clicked on commit, and you can see everything is checked. So everything is checked because of the command that we just put in the shell. So that looks good. We always have to put a message to ourselves. So we're just going to do initial website setup. Commit. And as soon as you see the close button, that means it's good to go. We can close out. And so we staged, we commit, now we have to push. And hopefully this works. Oh, great. Okay, so that works. If this is your first time, you might have to enter in your GitHub details just to give it all permission and make sure that it's all connected. So now we can close. It looks like everything's worked, but we can double check by going back to our GitHub page and refreshing. And here we go. Now we can see we've successfully pushed everything to GitHub. We can see all of our files here. And let's double check git ignore. We can even see that these are the things that we added. So that looks really good. Okay, great. So we are almost done with the initial setup. The last thing that we need to make sure it's all set up is our Netlify account. Now, we talked briefly about Netlify in the last tutorial, but we'll go through exactly what you have to do now. So everyone should go to Netlify. And you can either sign in or log in. If you're signing in, I recommend signing up through GitHub. So let's see if this just automatically connects me. Okay, great. So I've done quite a few test websites, but for right now, once you successfully created an account, logged in through GitHub, we are going to create a new site, right? Because now we're dealing with a brand new site. So we're going to click on New Site from Git, and we're working with GitHub, so click GitHub. Notice that it says continuous deployment. I'll explain that in a bit. And you might have to authorize there, but that looks like it all logged in for me, so that looks good. And now you have to click on the right repository, which I have a couple of similar ones, but I think it's the most recent. So make sure you clicked on the repository that you want your website in. And we're going to keep most of the basic functions here, most of the basic settings. So this should all be okay. The only thing before you click deploy site, we're going to add one piece of information. So we're going to create a new variable, and here we're just going to, in all caps, do Hugo version. So this is just to make sure that our RStudio, where we're making all of the local changes, when we want to push the changes to our actual website, we want to make sure that the Hugo version is consistent across both RStudio and Netlify. So in order to figure out what value to put in here, we'll just quickly go back to RStudio, and there's, sorry, not in caps, Hugo version is a function that we can just look up here. And we can see mine says 0.83.1. So if yours is different, that's okay. Just copy it exactly. And we're going to go back and enter that value here. And I believe now we are ready to deploy our site. So you can click on deploy. And I think this is pretty cool. I think if you click on deploy, you can actually watch it building your website. So you can see it's building it in live time. And it might just take a few seconds. So we'll just wait and let it build the website fully. Oh, great. And now it says site is live. So let's go back up to the top, and they give you, just by default, Netlify assigns you random names for your website. So Youthful Shockley. And if you click on it, you can see this is the link to your website. We can click on it. I'll open it in a new tab. And this should look pretty similar because this is exactly what we saw in RStudio, but now you can see this is actually on the website that's hosted by Netlify. So that's pretty cool. We have our website set up now. The last thing I'll show you in this tutorial is how to change the name of the website unless you really like the name that you're randomly given. So we will just go to site settings and change site name. I had to scroll up a bit, but here you go, change site name. And here we can just call it academic website. Let's see if this works. That is already taken. We will put JS and for our initials. Okay. So now, because we just changed our website name, you can see if we click on it again, it will be the same thing, just with our new site name. You just want to copy this URL and quickly go back to RStudio just to make sure RStudio knows that you have the correct URL. So in your config.yaml file, you can see right here, you can enter your website URL. So this is where we're just going to paste it. And now we can save. And once again, we will just go through the process of staging, committing, and pushing. Changed website name. Awesome. Okay, great. So just finally, again, we can serve our site here just to take one final look. And it will pop up here in our local host. But as we saw in the last window, we also have it on our Netlify website page. So this looks really good, and now everyone has the default theme. So in the next tutorials, we'll actually get started on editing the content. So that will be really fun. So hopefully you all were able to do this, and look forward to seeing you next time.